Hello there, and welcome to Stage 3, the production stage for your projects and for the course MMDD 232, Emerging Multimedia Practice 1. Now, Stage 3 really kicks off the second half of the semester, but I understand because of the way this semester is scheduled and when this class falls, this is kind of happening right before reading week, when typically week 8 doesn't start until after reading week. But you're getting this information now, the week before reading week, which should help because it gives you a sense of what you should be working on before reading week, as well as what to be working on after reading week. But as much as these dates can be a little bit confusing, and I'm sure in your other classes, the weeks might have different numbers associated with them, really just, staying on top of submission due dates on Blackboard, as well as the announcements that are sent out. That's the best way to stay on track and to hopefully alleviate any of that confusion. But I hope this semester has been going well for y'all so far. I would have by this point met with each of you individually, which is great to get a sense of how things are going, as well as the project you are working on. I have gotten the sense there's been some weird confusion and things happening elsewhere in the program for you this semester. Quite unfortunate to hear about that, but I'm hoping that that's also steadying for you, so that things are getting a bit more routine and a bit more comfortable as we're entering now into the second half of the semester. With that, I'll go ahead and jump into Blackboard here. And as I like to do at the start of these videos, I'll go ahead and open up the critical path just to get a sense of where you've been and where you will be going. So the first 3 weeks of the course were stage 1. At that point, you were getting used to what this course is, learning all about how the semester is going to go, and you were proposing your own project for the course, as well as developing a plan for weeks 1 through 7 of the semester, encompassing stage 1 and stage 2. Then you would have used that plan during the pre-production stage to do pre-production work on your project, and ideally be checking off tasks, be making incremental progress week to week, and you would have had a couple of submissions happening during those weeks. You would have met with me during those weeks. You would have also met with your peers during those weeks. So there is a lot of things happening in this course at various times here and there, and you would have by this point, ideally finished off all of your pre-production work, so you should have a very strong idea of the foundation of your creative work for this project that you will now start to develop more fully in the production stage, which if we scroll down, you will see now we're entering into weeks 8 through 14. So stage 3 production happening from weeks 8 to 11, and then stage 4 happening weeks 12 through 14. You can also see key due dates and things happening in the course here. For instance, a drop-in session in week 8. You'll find any information about that by announcements on Blackboard. Stage 3A and stage 3B is split into submissions, just like stage 2 was split into stage 2A and stage 2B. You'll see that there will be supervisor meetings happening again in weeks 10 and 11. And then there's something called a professional development activity, which is due in week 12. And then your final stage 4 submission, which will be your grand case study, is due in week 13. Now keep in mind, right, your final project case study is due in week 13, not week 14. So it's due a little bit early just to give a little bit more wiggle room so that you can spend that final week reflecting on the project experience, as well as providing comments to your peers. But don't worry too much about stage 4 yet. That'll be a future video and information on Blackboard. But the idea is that by the end of the production stage, you will have finished your production assets. So for instance, if you are doing a motion graphics video or something like that, the video will be completed by the end of week 11, so that then you can spend time really putting together the case study. So you really should have your production work finished by this stage 3B submission, so that you can then spend stage 4 putting together your final showcase of your project, basically not spending that time finishing your project work. That's not advised, and that should not be the process that you are following for this course. So like I mentioned there, you see something that also says professional development activity. I figure I should say in this video, you'll notice on Blackboard a section that says professional development activity. If you open that up, there is a submission link that includes a video walking you through what this assignment is. It's not directly tied to stage 3 specifically, but it starts at this point of the semester to get you thinking about it, and you'll be working on it throughout the rest of the semester. So this is something that's kind of happening in the second half of the semester for you to be aware of. So make sure you watch that video as well. And once again, any time spent watching these videos, you can always log in your timesheet because that's a part of your whole project work experience. I'll go ahead though and open up the stage 3 area, which happens from week 8 to 11, where you will develop your assets using the basis of work from the pre-production stage. First off, you will see there is a mid-semester feedback form. I would really appreciate it if you completed this form. It's anonymous feedback. It shouldn't take too long. It's just some simple questions about how unhelpful or how helpful, right, or unhelpful certain aspects of the course have been so far, as well as just some simple questions for you to answer about how things are going. And then there's also some open-ended ones here at the bottom for you to provide any recommendations to improve the course for the rest of the semester or for future semesters as well, since I run this course in the future. So any feedback is really appreciated, and again, it's anonymous, so please be honest with what you provide, and it just helps me to get a better sense of how things are going for students in this course and as the semester continues. So please complete that feedback form. Then we'll open up the stage 3 overview here, which is where you will find this video. I'll go ahead and read through this information. So you've now reached stage 3 production of your multimedia project. The goal of this stage is to bring your pre-production plans from stage 2 to life, transforming your ideas into a finished product. At this stage, you'll be spending a lot of time in relevant design software putting together your assets. So I've said this many times before. Ideally, in the pre-production stage, you wouldn't have been working in After Effects, in Illustrator, in Figma even, right? Maybe you were doing some low fidelity stuff in those programs towards the end of that stage, but really now is the time to be deep in the design software you're using and creating those final assets, right? Pre-production was a lot more about drafts and sketches and developing some of your ideas, right? Laying the foundation, the framework for your design ideas, and then now you're going to actually start putting those into fruition, right? Creating those final assets. Purpose of stage 3, this stage focuses on executing your ideas and creating the content of your final project. You will use the sketches, storyboards, scripts, wireframes, etc. developed in pre-production to guide your work. You'll conduct self-learning, right? YouTube tutorials, various other resources to advance your skill set while you work on production assets, right? Again, this is meant to be a learning experience, so if you're doing After Effects or something, you'll most likely be needing to consult tutorials for specific effects and specific things you need to do in the software. If you aren't doing that, then that actually might mean you aren't pushing yourself quite a bit, or you aren't pushing yourself enough, right? Again, this project is meant to be expanding your skills, so be looking into new things to integrate into your project that you don't already know, so that you can keep developing your skills with your chosen software, and that will help you in your career path. If you encounter challenges during production, as always, you can contact me. You can seek feedback from your peers or use tools like ChatGPT to brainstorm solutions. This is also an opportunity to develop your adaptability, right? This course is all about being adaptable and sort of problem solving. So you might run into problems during this stage. So figuring out how to troubleshoot that is very important, because that'll be developing habits for you to do in the future as well when you're in your career and you might hit a wall with something. How do you move forward, right? It happens all the time. Key takeaway: the more prepared you are from your pre-production work, the more efficient and effective your production stage will be. Instead of getting stuck in the details, refer back to your plans to keep your project on track. This ensures you remain aligned with your creative vision as you turn your ideas into reality. Now, you might find that as you're working on your final assets, maybe you do some things to change from your storyboard, or you shift some things a little bit here and there from your pre-production work. That's okay, right? That's a part of the creative process as well. And when it comes time to your case study, you can just show some of how all of that developed over time. But you do want to make sure you are taking this project step by step to have all of that work to draw from. There's going to be 2 submissions. I'll go through them more in a minute rather than listing them here, but just keep in mind with each submission you will submit a related timesheet tracking your hours on the project and what you've been working on, as well as updating a project plan with each submission, as you've been doing so far as well, just to show the development of the tasks you've been working on week to week. There also will be a supervisor meeting that takes place actually during stage 3B, so keep that in mind as well. Consult the schedule, put that in your calendar, make sure you show up, all of that grand old stuff. I'll talk about that in a minute. And it says here information on your ongoing professional development activity is included elsewhere on Blackboard, as I discussed a bit earlier in this video. So stage 3A is actually quite straightforward. Basically, there's going to be a timesheet of the production work you've been doing so far. You will need to do an updated project plan for weeks 8 through 14. So if you recall, the initial project plan that you made was for weeks 1 through 7. Now you'll use this template, which breaks down the remainder of the semester, for you to now list out the production tasks you'll be working on during these weeks, and just getting you a sense of the upcoming due dates and different things happening in the course week to week. So keep that in mind, and you'll definitely want to fill out at the very least all of these production tasks. Here, students still, for some reason, even though it says here currently included tasks are used as placeholders, you must input tasks related to your individual project. Students still don't put in their actual production tasks. Maybe they aren't watching these videos. It's hard to say. So, remind your peers, hey, this is how you fill this out. And yes, include the production tasks related to your project that you plan to complete over these weeks. For stage 4, it might be a bit more vague what exactly you'll be doing at those stages. So, finalizing work in week 12 as well as developing your case study in week 13. But you're probably going to need, again, you really want to make sure you set aside a lot of time to be working on that when those weeks come. And also due dates for like your professional development activity are here, stage 4, stage 3B, all of those due dates are put in there for you to help get a sense of how your plan will look for the second half of the semester. And then examples of production work, using the previous template you've been using to show the production work you've been doing as it relates to tasks logged on your timesheet. So quite similar to what you've been working on already. And in your timesheet, specify production work, plan development, creating that plan, watching these videos, right? Once again, don't forget that that is time spent on this course as well. And then the stage 3B, which is weeks 10 through 11, you'll see here, supervisor meeting 2 guidelines. So just like last time, there is a schedule here. For weeks 10 and 11 are when the second meetings will be taking place, so March 21st and March 28th. And just like last time, the meetings are organized by the different remote team group numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's dedicated time slots for each group and a dedicated meeting link for each group as well. Once again, please don't just show up at the time that you are set for. Please show up for the full time dedicated for your whole group. That shows that you're being respectful of everyone's time because you're all asked to be there during that time slot. It just helps me to be able to get through students one by one, and it also gives y'all an opportunity to connect with one another as well. So please make sure you do that. Once again, students still are confused and think that they just have to show up on the time that it says. So remind your peers, let them know they should be there during the full team time slot. So that is the meeting schedule. And so this is just the same information as last time. Again, it should be known at this point. I shouldn't have to repeat all of this, so you can review it and go through it. And if you do make that time slot on time, you can log an hour onto your timesheet. Again, that's project time, that's course time for you to be logging. And make up meeting guidelines right here. If you end up missing your meeting and you need to use a late waiver and book a makeup meeting, you can do so there, but it's not advised. Makeup meetings have been extending the meeting process with students quite long past when was initially expected. So please make these meetings and be there on time and set your schedule for it and all of that. Again, that is skills you're developing in this class, is doing things on time. So someone requesting a meeting with you, you showing up to that meeting is very important. And the submission here for stage 3B, a timesheet of your tasks completed during that stage, an updated project plan of your production work basically up to that point, and then examples of your production work, and there's a template there. So by the end of stage 3B, your production work should be completed. Like I said, if you're working on a video, the video, you should have a working final cut by the end of this. If you're working on a Figma prototype, you should have a working final prototype by the end of this, right? You don't want to be saving off extra work that you have to complete while you're also working on your case study, because that's going to make both your project, it's going to pull it down, and it's going to make your case study less polished as well. So very, very important. And you know, as you're working through this production stage, as you're getting started as well with you know, creating your project plan for weeks 8 through 14, you can ask yourself too at this point, look, you know, see what you initially proposed as your project for this semester, and get a sense of, you know, how you've been with organizing your time and developing things during the first half of the semester, and ask yourself, you know, were you a bit overly ambitious with what you initially proposed, or were you even under what's possible? And you can shift some of your plan at this point too, to say, you know what, I think I can make a bit more with this project, or you know what, maybe I need to cut some things back. It really depends on each individual student, so that's something to keep in mind, and something I do want you to focus on that I will probably repeat with you throughout the rest of the semester, is it's very important to focus on quality over quantity. So when it comes time for what you're creating, and especially for your final case study, it's more important for you to have a focused, high quality product at the end of this project, rather than a lot of things, you know, a big project that is, you know, not as high quality. Especially because with these case studies and with things in your portfolio, it's hard to say just how much time someone's going to spend going through your work. So the more focused and the higher quality work that you have to really make a strong impact is very important. Instead of having the most, you know, super long, drawn out, spread sort of thing, trying to create something that's a bit more focused. So keeping that in mind too when it comes to your project work. Focusing on quality over quantity. So that's just something to have in the back of your mind as you start working on this stage. As always, you can send me a message on Blackboard with any questions or concerns, and I am happy to help you through this process.